Hey everybody, welcome back to HitPoint, the JRPG news show, an anime news show, a niche news show, a show where Baku and I talk about anything and everything that catches our interest and or ire. We stream live every single Sunday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. We will be previewing some trailers, talking to an indie dev about a pretty sweet-looking upcoming game, and we'll be responding to super chats at the end of the show. But throughout the show, continue to throw any questions that come to mind into the chat, because Baku here will be watching and observing and putting together an amalgamation of all of your curiosities and desires, and then we will foist them upon our guest here. We will talk to very soon. Baku, how are you doing today?
Oh, just excited to be here. Had a chance to watch an opera over the week. A friend, Divatron, over at Twitch had invited me to her live show, so I got to witness her do what she does during the day, like her day job. Like,
Yeah.
which is incredible. Like, boy, I knew you were a professional opera singer, but live is a whole different thing. It's just fantastic. It's a fantastic show.
Yeah, when a pro is like doing their thing, like they just kind of transform into somebody almost completely different, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I was just I have no words. It was just an incredible show. But other than that, life goes on as usual. But yeah, nothing to really update on. How about you, sir? What's up with you?
Oh man. This weekend was kind of fun. Actually, I got to do a lot of little stuff around the house. There was a little shortcoming of news this weekend. I was gonna put together the JRPG weekly update, but things were so things were so what's the word? Sparse? Yeah, a little bit sparse. So I ended up just go ahead and releasing my review of Lufia and the Rise of the Sinistrals. I'm pretty excited about that. Here, I boosted your audio just a bit there, Mr. Baku. Could you try talking again here for a sec?
Yep. Actually, I saw that video release. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but if you guys haven't seen it yet, definitely check it over at Super Derek's YouTube channel. Which is not this one, but the other one.
It was a lot of fun to finally be able to put that out, but I felt like I was a little bit backed into a corner because I was like, I really wanted to do a JRPG weekly update and just do that because that's like my weekly thing. That's what I like to do. But there was like very little, but we did actually get some last minute news to talk about, and we will be talking about that later on today. There was like a whole indie game fest thing that we'll be talking a little bit about. But let's see. I think at this point, should we introduce our guest?
Yeah, actually, do you want to do that and then just check real quick with the folks if they can hear us all good, and then we can go from there.
Yes, Natika's here says that it's way better, so I think we are probably good to go. All right.
Okay.
So, let's go ahead and switch scenes here over and introduce our friend here, our brand new friend James, aka Primitive from Primitive Pixels. James, welcome to the stream. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks a lot. Super happy to be here with you guys. Love the HitPoint podcast, and yeah, just excited to talk.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I
review.
I love it. Yeah, I think that you might be one of the first podcast watchers who I actually get to interview today. This is going to be a lot of fun, and you already kind of know how a lot of this goes. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and let's watch together. We'll just kind of get hyped together watching the new trailer for Seed of Nostalgia that dropped less than a week ago. And then we'll continue to just talk and figure out more about what makes this game tick, because this game looks so good. Let's play here. Any second now. Oh, there we go. Oh, here, I need to put him back on the screen. Oh no. The most professional stream on all of YouTube. Okay, here we go. There he is. Look at this, man. Do you hear that? Ah, that. Oh, God. Dude, this game looks so beautiful. And so, oh, okay, I haven't seen this new trailer yet, so I'm like,
I will say that the hardest part of doing this podcast is seeing all these incredible games, even talking to the creator, and not being able to play it.
I know.
There's no. I just have everyone know that we don't have like special privilege or anything. We're like, oh, we get to test. No, we're waiting just like the rest of you.
God, I love that. That looks so impactful. The sound design, I can already hear it. That's. Oh man, just the visual effects that are being applied on top of the pixel art, so nice. That wave, like that.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
That's so slick, man. Dude, and the music is so good. Okay, this is... You're making it kind of hard for me to hype responsibly here, James. You realize that, right?
I deeply apologize.
Yeah, how dare you do this to us?
It's the shame and burden that I'll have to carry for the rest of my life.
Gah. Seed of nostalgia.
I do. Dang it.
Holy cow, man.
Oh, wrong screen.
Oh, nope. Hang on. There we go. Bring him back.
There's James. Hi.
Hey, I'm back.
Bring my man back.
You know,
Signature
one of
move.
these days, I will overcome that muscle memory, and it'll be on a day where we're not interviewing anyone, and it's just going to be all downhill. Oh my gosh. So, I first heard a little bit about this game about a month ago or so. That's about when I saw a trailer just kind of making the rounds on a little subreddit that you know, that likes to pretend they play RPGs from time to time. So I heard about you guys on the JRPG subreddit. And of course I have to poke a little fun at JRPG subreddit. But
Of course.
man, this game, not only like did it resonate with me, but it appears to have resonated pretty broadly with a lot of people. And in doing so, you also were launching a Kickstarter. Not quite yet at the time. That Kickstarter just happened or started kicking off here. About how many days ago? 4, 5,
6 days ago.
6 days ago. You met your goal in 4 hours. And are now currently just taking victory laps. So that's wild. At this point, everybody, if you enjoy what you're seeing here with the game, like I know you are, there is a pinned comment in the chat that you should go follow, and you should also go ahead and follow the game on Kickstarter as well. So let's go ahead and start this interview off in earnest because I can't wait anymore. that's the best I got. So can you tell me a little bit about Primitive Pixels and what your or rather Primitive Pixels and what your team's origin story is? Like, how did you guys end up, or how did you end up forming Primitive Pixels and deciding to make an indie JRPG in the first place?
Sure. So I started Primitive Pixels several years ago. I suppose like anything else, it kind of just started as an idea. And I've been doing the solo dev thing on my own pretty happily for quite a few years now.
Hmm.
And I like working alone. And for me, it's no problem to work all day and night. But I've wanted to make specifically this story and this genre of a game for a long time. And I've had personal projects, experimenting with things. But I knew that to really deliver a project at JRPG that was worth people's time to get
Yeah.
excited about and get invested in, I knew that I was going to need a bit of help. And honestly, the team, the people that I'm working with at Primitive Pixels, it's really formed in a very organic and very wholesome way, and I'm actually really proud of that. Almost everybody on my team that's working with me now,
Uh-huh.
I met because I saw them post something on Reddit or Twitter or onto some sort of indie game
Oh,
outlet, and I just thought what they had done was really cool, or I could see that they were super passionate about it. And so I just reach out and send them a message like, "Hey, I think whatever you're doing is so cool," and just try to talk to them because I'm genuinely interested to meet people that are passionate, especially about indie games and about JRPGs. I love talking. I love learning people's opinions and perspectives, and all of those first contacts basically turned into friendships
oh man.
and a working relationship. For example, our composer, Dima, but he goes by Mushra,
Hmm.
he had been releasing music packs on a website called itch.io.
Yeah.
And anybody who's into like really deep into indie games or indie game development knows what that website is. It's essentially just a platform for real indie games and for indie game developers to get some assets to get their project started. And he had been posting music, and he posted this one pack, and it was like the golden age of JRPG music, something like that. And it had like anime characters around a campfire. So
Oh
I
yes.
clicked on it instantaneously, and I listened to the music, and I was just blown away. I sat there and listened to the whole pack like three times through, and it had such a Mitsuda vibe. I mean, the bass
Oh
guitar was straight out of the Super Nintendo. The synths were just brilliant and beautiful, and it really had that atmosphere and vibe of that era, which I've heard other composers do, but it's very rare.
yeah.
And it's very magical when they can pull that off. It's a time machine that transports you back to a beautiful era in video games. And so I wrote to him and just basically praised him and embarrassed him by flattering him too much. And we ended up talking about Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger and Mitsuda and Uematsu and all these composers and things. And we just became friends really quickly. I got along with him great. And I think it was probably only a couple days after that where I was like, "Hey, I'm going to do this crazy thing and like launch a Kickstarter next year, and I'm doing everything by myself, but I really want you, if you want to, make some music for the game." And it was an instant yes, and
Oh,
we've just been working together ever since. And
I
the
love that
stories.
story.
The story is basically the same with everyone else, maybe in
Hmm.
their own specific way. Some of the pixel artists just post amazing art that I just loved or I felt like was a vibe, and I reach out and talk to them and get to know them. And when I hear how passionate they are about their specific realm, it's hard for me to not want to work with them, especially when they also have a love for JRPGs that inspired Seed of Nostalgia. And that's just been a really great way to build a team that feels like a family. It's been really nice.
Oh man, that's so nice. And one of the things that I always hear every time I interview somebody who's doing an indie dev RPG, uh, is I just love hearing how interconnected the community is. And like I was looking through the list of all of the different people who are kind of like collaborating and contributing here and there. And I saw Mushra and I saw Aaron from Beloved Rapture and I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh man, I recognize so many names from this list and just people coming together. You're you're going to be working with a composer who's going to guest from the Chained Echoes, I believe it was, is going
Yeah,
to.
Eddie, the composer from Chained Echoes, will he's actually already composed a track that you can listen to on the
Oh,
campaign,
nice.
but we are just now a very small amount of pledges on our Kickstarter away from being able to expand that collaboration and work on more music, which I think anybody who's played Chained Echoes should be responsibly hyped about that fact because it's a great, great, great composer.
He does watch the
And
show.
yeah, great, awesome, super sweet guy, really nice.
Uh,
And we're also working with Hideki Kakura, the composer from Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana, on some things, which really just had to happen because Trials of Mana is maybe the biggest inspiration, at least in the design department of the game. So I just
mhm.
felt like we had to do that. And my composer Mushra, of course, ecstatic at the opportunity, reached out to his agent Jason. This really nice guy who works with Crescent Moon or Crimson Moon, and just got us in touch with him. And he was cool enough to watch our trailer and give us some feedback and give us a little sweet write up about it. And childhood me just freaks out at that every time I think about it. It's just crazy.
I believe it. And it really shows in like the art style and, the musical kind of influences here. Even the name kind of has a little, I don't know, part of me sees Seed of Nostalgia, SON, and thinks SOM, Secret of Mana. And I know I shouldn't be doing that mentally, but there might be. Anyways, I am stoked. This game, God, I keep staring at the trailer and losing my train of thought. It's so great. What else?
Thank you.
What else are you trying to bring forward from the golden age of RPGs? When I look at this, it seems like you're really accomplishing a lot here and invoking that vibe, and that's a comment that I read a lot in the various Reddit posts and online. And what do you credit to that? How did you achieve that? I guess in a way that just feels so authentic to the era, but also so modern. Like, look at those visuals overlays. Oh,
Sure, that's a good question.
yeah,
I think it's multi-part. I think the foundation is just that JRPGs really changed my life forever when I first found out about them and played them as a kid. Um, I will remember the first time that I beat Earthbound just as cherished as I could remember, a favorite family vacation or something as a kid, or some big event or success. It's stuck with me forever. Chrono Trigger and
mm,
Final Fantasy VI. I mean, we could list names forever, but
sure,
those games were they were really my escape from some of the harshness of reality, and they opened my mind to a level of storytelling and atmosphere that I just I never knew could have been possible at that point, and I've kept them right at my side for my entire life, and I always will. And so I think that of course my childhood love for that is what the catalyst that sparked the venture of becoming a game developer and working on a game like this. I also do a lot of research, aka playing video games, and I have a tendency to play my favorites, especially retro games, on a nearly yearly cycle. And I'm always a note taker. Like a lot of times, I just like to get lost in the graphics and the mechanics and things, and just think about how they accomplished it, and
yeah,
more importantly, why it was fun. Not so much like, wow, they did this technical thing or that artwork is beautiful, but like, why was it specifically fun and why was it engaging? And I
yeah,
think the answer to a question like that has changed over the years as a lot of us have grown older, and of course, real life responsibilities and things.
hmm,
We maybe don't have the attention to give to certain aspects of it. So I think that finding the things in those games that inspired Seed of Nostalgia that were genuinely fun and genuinely the foundation of why those experiences were so great, and take those to 11 basically and Seed of Nostalgia as hard as I can. So generally speaking, the story is the story and the characters and the scenario pacing is absolutely the biggest pillar and seed of nostalgia, and it's really the thing that I wanted, that I think is ambitious about this game, that may be unexpected, but I really want to shoot for the stars with how deep and how symbolic the story ends up being, and how
Yes.
far I can push the emotional connection to the character, because that's my absolute most favorite thing about the genre. I love tearing up by the time a credits roll. That's the perfect experience to me.
Oh
If it
man.
feels like I'm saying goodbye to friends, then what more could you ask for? That's deeply powerful. And while I'm not saying that I will achieve that, I am saying that I will work all with all of my blood and sweat to make sure that it is.
Oh man.
And so
Yeah.
that's the biggest pillar. And world design, I think, is the next. And telling the story just through the environments and through the little dialogues and things that you interact with there. I want the world to feel like a real place.
Oh God. Yeah, you already mentioned a few of my favorites. Earthbound being one of them, which absolutely had me bawling by the end of it. It was my very first RPG ever, and
Oh,
just the
cool.
dude getting stuck on the fight against Gygas for like a month and grinding
Yeah.
every character to level 99 to still not be able to take him down. And then
Yeah.
and then like in an act of desperation I figured out what the secret was, the trick. Anyways, I'm not going to spoil it any further
Yeah.
than maybe I already have, but holy cow, man.
Yeah.
Like that had me just like streaming tears.
Yeah.
Mm.
And gosh, like the best games are the ones that end almost before you want, well, definitely before you want them to, because you don't want to overstay your welcome.
Sure.
um but that's really good to hear that you've like taken that message or that aspect to heart. And it's not always going to be easy to evoke that, right? But it's
Yeah, definitely
definitely
not.
a good goal for sure. um okay, sorry, I was so enraptured and like listening to this, I forgot to start thinking of other questions, but this is wonderful. So yeah, one thing though that I think that also kind of stood out to me is that it doesn't look like there's going to be any random encounters in this game, at least so far. Is that correct?
Yeah, so actually with combat and encounters, I kind of wanted to make a hybrid system. It's not
Uh-huh.
the first game that's done this, but it's my personal favorite, kind of picking the best aspects of every option. So you can see encounters on the map, and
Yeah.
there's different types. There are encounters where it's very much just like a traditional game you would have played on Super Nintendo or PS1 or Sega
Hmm.
Saturn, where you can see the actual enemies or the fight coming, so to speak. Um, and those fights are very scripted, similar to like Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
There's going to be a level of personal polish to each of those. And then we also have different encounters, which are the main encounters you're going to find in more like field areas. And these are represented by a single encounter sprite, right? Right now it's a skull flying around.
Oh,
And
okay.
so you can see that enemy. That enemy can has a field of vision, and if you get too close, he's going to get pissed and he's going to try and chase you, right?
Yeah.
Um, but the beauty of that is that if people want to avoid it, they absolutely can, no problem at all. There's not really going to be any forced grinding in the game unless people are at the very end game and trying to tackle super bosses. They're probably going to have to grind a bit,
Super boss is
depending on.
confirmed.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
um, but the beauty of that, or like why I personally like that, is that you gives you the option to fight or not. If you want to be sneaky, you can, but you
Yeah.
never quite know what you're going to get by hitting that encounter. Because
Oh
that's one
yeah.
thing that I actually really did like about random encounters, is there was that level of danger where you may just out of nowhere hit a very elite, very small percentage chance, super hard encounter out of nowhere,
Oh
or
yeah,
like
yeah.
metal slimes in Dragon Quest, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get so many levels right now, just those sort
Yes.
of little surprise moments. that always kind of keep you on your feet. It's not like, oh, I see a gremlin running around. I know I'm going to fight a gremlin if I fight that. It's like, well, I see an encounter, and it could be one of 5 to 10 different
Yeah.
enemies and combinations of them. So I like that sort of hybrid system, and things that tie more directly into the story will be scripted, and you'll have the choice to avoid them if you want to in some cases as well. But those will have more of a custom feel and touch, and the battles will reflect the story that's happening. But I think for fields, I kind of like the chance, just throwing in a nice 3% chance that you might get an enemy that's 5 times harder than the other enemies in that zone. But by killing them, you might get 2 or 3 levels, or in our case, ascendancy points, because we do like a skill tree leveling system
Oh,
out of
okay.
nowhere. So I like the surprise element. I'm not a fan of hitting an encounter in every 3 steps. I really like to be able to avoid them when I want to, especially if
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find an item in the world for a quest or something. And so we're pushing forward with that kind of system. You can see the encounters. If you engage with them, you're going to fight them right there on the place on the map where you're at,
Mm,
and
yeah.
you never know what it's going to be.
That's so cool. So I had a question. I was distracted again by talking to you. Dang it, that's the curse. I'm like, I'm so wrapped up. I'm like, oh
It's,
yeah, I
it's
need
that
to I need to
it's
host
that
this show.
magnificent beard
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
that is one of those.
distracts you.
But it reminds me of like in Earthbound how you could definitely tell what enemies were before you encountered them, and that does definitely like lead to possibilities or opportunities for cheesing. So that's also another thing. Like I remember I would do that in Earthbound, is like, oh, I would go seek out this specific type of enemy, but then I would like try to avoid this other one because I knew it would wreck me. um
Right, like the
and
trees that catch on fire when you beat them.
oh my god, yes, exactly. So being able to avoid those is like, I don't know, part of me feels like I'm cheating the game design because I'm like, but I'm kind of leveraging the system against it. But I also totally understand why, like, that little mystery box kind of opening up of the combat encounter to see what you get is also going to be really important, because like if you were just hunting metal slimes because you could see them on the map or something, then yeah, that would, it could cause issues.
And there are certain enemies that have like their own very specific habitat, because there is a crafting system in the game for equipment.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to keep that somewhat simple, but kind of a nice side, like a parallel progression system, where you can go and mine metals and minerals, and you can also try and find specific enemies to get their parts. Kind of Monster Hunter-ish, I guess, but and then you can make special equipment with those combinations of things. You don't have to, because there's basically, you can purchase items and equipment, you can craft items and equipment, or you can find items and equipment. And aside from very legendary cases, you can get about the same or even more specific types of power growth from choosing one or the other. But really, it's up to you. So
Oh,
some
that's,
enemies, it's like, okay, you'll like a smithy or a huntsman will tell you,
yeah.
hey, those blue basilisks are, behind the grotto in the corrupted forest or something like that. So there are specific enemies where you can kind of you can focus them if you want
Okay.
to.
Yeah. Okay. And how do you, like, with so many options, how do you go about balancing those kinds of combat encounters that could diverge so greatly based off of your choices, and like crafting different equipments and things? How do you go about, I guess it takes a lot of gameplay balancing and play testing, I guess, but
It's just a ton of trial and error. There's basically, you can put growth uh, projections, like where you want something to be at specific levels compared to others. You can
yeah.
use some pretty simple math to figure that out, and by changing some of the variables and percentages, you can make that growth faster or slower. But it never really gets you. And I'm not a fan of like scaling things. I don't really like it when the game is just constantly keeping up with you. I
Mm-hmm.
understand why some games do that, but I really like to be able to go back and slap some squirrels into oblivion if I'm level
Ah,
50 now. I don't want them to
yeah.
also like put me in a stretcher, you know. I
Yeah.
like that feeling of power growth and progression and coming back. But
So it
I
looks
kind
like
of
there's
lost my
also a few different like party members that might join Attila throughout this journey. I haven't seen like a ton of them together at any point in these. Is it kind of like a drop in, drop out kind of system throughout the game, or is it like you acquire people, or how is that going to work?
So all of the main characters are tied. At this point, they're all tied into the main story progression.
Hmm.
Aside from one, which we may unlock pretty soon on the Kickstarter, which will be a little bit more of a its own self-contained story with that character. And that's kind of the format I would like to go moving forward if I end up adding more characters or content in the future. Have them be standalone and then incorporate in. But basically, you'll meet those party members as you progress the story. Most of them are in order, although there are technically two, possibly three, but two of the characters you could get in different orders depending on kind of how you move through
Oh,
the
okay.
regions once the game opens up. But these basically, when you find these characters, all of them will have something happening in their life or the region they're in, and they have a connection to it. Pretty traditional in that there's a reason when you meet them to band together
Yeah.
to overcome, an issue that's shared at that moment, and then through their personalities and connections through those missions, they realize that they either share a lot of principle, morals, or ideals, or in some characters' cases, they just want to get the hell out of where they're at now and go see the world. So there's a lot of motivations and things, but it all ties into the story. And basically, for party, like how the party works, once you have your first three characters, um, you're basically good to go. And as you unlock new ones, you can trade these characters in and out. There's group leveling, so if
Oh,
you
that's.
decide that you
Mhm.
really like three characters and you're not feeling the other ones for this part of the game, when you decide to bring that other character in because they're really strong against that current content, they'll be at the same level that the rest of your party was. There's no real roadblocks with or just time waste for that sort of thing.
That is
And
exactly where I was going to go ask next,
okay,
actually.
and airships actually play a pretty big role in the story about halfway in. And the airship that you get as a party sort of becomes your mobile home base,
D-
and kind of modeled after like the Space Between Time and like Chrono Trigger, where the other
yes.
party members who aren't in your group are going
Yeah.
to just be hanging out in that airship doing their thing. And so it gives you a choice to go back there and switch your party around. There's NPCs that are very specific that you can unlock to join your airship. There's also
Yes.
collectibles you can
Sorry.
find in the world. And when you find those collectibles, they
Hmm.
unlock visual decorations within your airship, and certain ones actually unlock rewards too. So
Oh, buddy,
just
you are
just
speaking
some
my language.
You are so speaking my language right now. Like, tell me more.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
I've always really liked the feeling that feeling of freedom and adventure and like ownership when you get an airship in a game, especially when
Yeah.
it's like you can drive it on the world map, you can go inside of the airship and talk to characters and have dialogue and unlocks. It's a big part of story. It's how you're going to get to later areas. I just really like making the concept of an airship as fun as possible and giving it the most utility. So that's how you'll change your party.
Yeah.
Generally, I kind of wanted I'd gone back and forth on this. I kind of wanted for a while for people to just freely be able to switch the party in and out whenever they wanted to. But I think that it becomes harder to make the game challenging that way
Yeah.
because if they can change on a whim before any fight, I like letting people experiment and trying, but I also want them to commit slightly when they're going out and facing harder challenges to give a little bit more foresight or forethought into what's going to be really strong. What are the enemy types in that dungeon? Like, what are they weak to? How are they going to be trying to manipulate my turn order, and how can I exploit that to my advantage? So I kind of want them, and I'm designing the content to make all of the characters excel or be more challenging depending on the content to try and have people try them all out and see what they
Yeah.
love.
And it sounds like there's
Right.
also a class system in the game that if I'm understanding correctly, like you can find items like gear, weapons that can unlock classes. Is that correct? And how does that work?
Kind of. It doesn't specifically unlock other classes. Each
Uh-huh.
of the characters has a specific class in the game,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
how leveling works is upon leveling, or there's also some other ways of finding these. But every time you level, you're going to get what's called an ascendancy point, and these points are how you level. So instead of just
Okay.
unlocking abilities as you go, we have completely free customizable skill trees that are, even though they look like trees, they're more like mazes. You can move in any direction, including backwards.
Oh,
And so we're
okay.
trying to design these. If you can imagine, every single character class in the game has their own unique one. Nothing is shared between them aside from passive nodes that maybe increase their health or things like this. And they're broken down so that the further down they go in any given path, they specialize that class into a very defined role. So, for example, Attila is a spirit blade. It's kind of like a sword fighter who also harnesses what's called spirit magic, and eventually, like you were saying, through specific gear, cosmic magic. And if you hang on the left side of that tree and push lower down, he's going to become an extreme melee physical fighter. He's going to unlock tons of different sword-based abilities. He's going to be able to start cracking people's armor like no other,
Oh.
and putting really interesting spirit debuffs on people. If he goes down the middle of the tree and pushes further, he becomes way more of a spellcaster. And
Oh, okay.
you really maximize the spirit damage and the cosmic damage eventually, um, including new debuffs. A lot of those high ultimate spells are really going to shift up the dynamics of how enemies behave in battle. And if you go on the right side of that tree, he becomes way more defensive, much more tanky. He becomes more of a defensive character. He starts getting things like strangling vine abilities where he can paralyze and hold down enemies so they can't act and things like that. So and like I said, you can move in any direction. So if you push down one skill tree and then you kind of bump over to the right, you can actually move backwards and unlock some of those sweet abilities that you didn't want to spend the points going from the top. So I basically just want people to have complete control and fun to the fun of experimentation and finding those builds that they like. And then the cherry on top of that is gear towards the end of the game is well, the best gear, anyways, the legendary items that you're going to find in like the end game repeatable dungeons or the final bosses and some of the other end game stuff that we have planned. And these work more like sets where as you get more items that are matching in that set, you unlock abilities and upgrades to the abilities you already have in your class, which kind of specializes you. So one set may be a sword, an accessory, and a cloak, and that's the full
Yeah.
set. And when you equip all three of them, the abilities that you had already had now change and they're ascended versions of those, basically making you like a hero
Oh.
class version of that. And there's
Mm.
multiple set options for every class. So again, if your build is defensive, you can
Yeah.
go for a set that really makes you nearly invincible. And I kind of want to let people break the game a little bit within reason
I
for
love it.
those that really like min-maxing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the other benefit to those high-end sets is when you complete it and you equip all three, it actually changes the way your character sprite looks in game. So you get that little
Yes.
reward of like, I am now a more powerful elite version of the class that I was before.
Dude,
That's
everything
the
that you're saying is just like I'm about to ask like like is are there visual changes to your character when you do these sorts of things? I love that. That's just it's almost like we played the same games growing up and it's like
it's
we love the
almost
same
like
Such
stuff.
a big
that.
deal.
Almost as if. Um
Remember the days when like there's a slight like color change to the sprite. You're like,
oh yeah.
it's green. It was red. Now it's great. Oh my
Yes,
god.
Yes,
So
yes.
so
exactly. Like
The
changing Link's tunics in the Link to the
oh
Past.
my
Wow, how
gosh.
cool is
yeah,
that? It
it's
was
like
the
Oh,
that.
coolest thing ever.
so yeah, let's shift gears a little bit because I know that I mean the gameplay is obviously a huge component because you're like you said one of the biggest things that you're concerned with is making the game fun. And that definitely seems to be like a focus of what we've been talking about here is just giving people that positive reinforcement of doing the fun stuff. But then one of the other big things that I know is a big important aspect of a good RPG to you is the story and the world. And so I wanted to shift gears and talk a little bit about that side of the development process. So I mean, right now, Seed of Nostalgia centers on the Gaia seed and this giant tree called the Verdant Thala. Is that right?
Yep,
Um,
yep.
so I mean, I can think I might know some inspiration behind it, but I was hoping to hear from you. What kind of inspirations are you drawing from to craft this world and yeah, and how did you come to the idea of like a dying world and a sacred tree? How did you come to this?
Well, it's actually funny with the World Tree theme. This was basically directly inspired by Secret of Mana or Trials of Mana. I always liked that concept of a tree that's the centerpiece of a world. But what I wanted to do, and actually maybe the first idea that sparked this whole story in the first place, was that I wanted the flow of that style of story to be played out in reverse. So instead of your characters going through this entire adventure and trying to make your way to a world tree or the Mana Holy Land or something like this to
Yeah.
finish it, I wanted the main character to be born on the world tree and completely disconnected from the rest of civilization.
Oh,
And for the beginning of the game to be you descending that world tree down into a world that your people have completely forgotten and have no clue of what's happening. So it's the story of Seed of Nostalgia. It's it's very hard to not spoil when I'm explaining it, um,
okay.
because it does focus around a lot of really big twists throughout the
Sure.
story.
Hmm.
But what I can do is kind of set the stage for how the game opens. So in this world, about 1,000 years before the game takes place, the planet is struck by two cosmic calamities, right? Two giant supposed asteroids smash into the planet on different sides of the world. The devastation from this basically nearly wiped out every civilization that was anywhere near this.
Yeah.
Um, and after the dust settles from this event, the people from the coastal sides of Silvara, which is the main world in the game, they make this pilgrimage to go basically witness the devastation. And when they arrive to the scene, the crater of this cataclysm that happens on Silvara, they find a mass at the base of this crater,
Mhm.
and it's a seed-like mass. And this is where seed starts to come into play. And
Yeah.
so they're shocked and confused and very curious. A group of warriors from this pilgrimage go down into the crater and approach this mass, this living seed. When they get near, they're visited by a glowing golden entity which seems to be protecting this mass, and this entity is referred to in the game as the Gaia Seed. And
Okay.
the seed speaks in a very godlike manner. A lot of, I am the beginning, I am the nourishment of the land, I am the prosperity you've always dreamed of.
Hmm.
And the people felt almost overtaken by the power and influence of this entity. They felt enthralled by it as soon as they lay eyes on it. And one of
Sure.
these brave warriors walks up to the seed and puts his hand out and touches this mass. As soon as he does this, a small sapling starts to grow out of this strange cosmic mass. And the seed tells this warrior that from this moment until the end of your life, you have pledged you must protect this sapling. This sapling represents the a new aeon for the world, a new era of prosperity and natural wonder and
Oh,
balance and order that I have come to bring you. And so this group of warriors is kind of the foundation of Attila's backstory.
Oh,
I don't want to spoil
yeah.
too much, but
Oh,
as
yeah.
time goes on, that sprout turns into a towering 1,000-foot tall tree that's referred to by those people as Verdanthala.
Oh, that's so
The
cool.
word
So,
verdancy meaning wild growth in nature, and those original warriors, their lineage, their children and the children's children, start living on that tree, and they're known as the Arborians, and they form a village there called Arboria. And as time goes on, civilizations rebuild. Of course, in typical fashion, the greed and ire of man take over, and blood must be spilled across the lands as the the civilizations start to push and encroach further and further into each other's regions.
yeah.
War breaks out. Basically, the island becomes a giant
Oh.
field of blood. And at a certain point,
Hmm.
two of these great kingdoms turn their eyes towards the Gaia Seed, trying, basically making a plan to capture the power that's held within this world tree and bend it into their own evil plans for domination. And the 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 Arborians are forced to sever the link between the top of the tree and the lands below,
Oh.
in order, because it's the only way that they can stop them from actually getting in there and corrupting the tree.
Yeah.
Um, there's a magical, basically portals that the Arborians create called port gates, which allowed them to travel from the lands below up to the tree. And so when these other kingdoms came to try and steal the power, they destroyed those port gates forever. And so for the last 100 years, the Arborians have had zero contacts with the lands below, and they have no clue what's happening there. So 100
Oh,
years
wow.
after those are destroyed, that's when the game starts.
So this
And
is
it's
all like
the
this is all just like the before the game even starts talking. Okay.
exactly. This
I
is the
was I was I
backstory.
was a
This is
little
why I feel
concerned.
totally comfortable saying it.
Okay.
No
I was
You
spoilers. You
can't
can
tell
read
us.
this right on our Kickstarter page.
You
Okay.
can't tell us
Okay.
this
It's
really cool
right there
story and then
after
not
that.
let us play in this world. Come
I was
on.
gonna say, well, there is that, but I was also just like, oh my gosh, if it sounds like you've got enough like backstory here for a prequel. Um, is there gonna be a
Yeah.
prequel? I mean, well, maybe we'll talk about future plans later on. But dang, that is so
Yeah.
cool. You've definitely put some thought into this over the, well, probably several years at this point, right? It sounds like.
Yeah, and the real challenge has become not continuing to add and write on it, but to take the essence of that big story and shave it
Refine.
down to fit and make sense in this genre,
Yeah.
and in a way that the pacing feels good. I don't want things to drag on. I don't want to have filler content. So
Mm-hmm.
so it's been actually a really big challenge editing this down to like its very source of story,
Yeah.
and we're getting there.
Kind of
Scope creep
distilling it
can be
down.
real.
And the man, the hard part is going to be, it's always killing your darlings, right? Is like you have this
Yeah.
awesome set piece and you're like, this has got to be a big central part, but then you're like, oh, well, for this to make sense, I have this like 50-hour side story that we have to do. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
maybe we save that for a second game or something sometime down the
Yeah.
line. That
Yeah.
oh
Yeah, just
man.
keep the most important, and if something just isn't that fun or compelling, just get rid of it.
What's been
People will thank you.
what's been the hardest part to, I mean, not without, if you can answer this without spoiling something, what's been the hardest thing to cut for you from this so far that you've had to?
Mm,
Is that even possible to ask, I guess, is another question. Is that even possible to answer without
Hmm.
spoiling?
yeah, that's a hard one. I'm not sure. I've had to cut a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that I was a little bummed about, but not really. Actually, in the end, I'm actually really happy of everything that's gotten sort of grinded down to its pure form, because it got rid of a lot of stuff that just wasn't really necessary. Like, I think Chrono Trigger is such an incredibly loved and revered game because the pacing just doesn't stop. It
Yeah.
always feels like what you're doing is meaningful, and they give you exactly the right amount of this amazing story and these set pieces and these key moments, but they don't drag it forever. I mean, you can be on your way to a whole new amazing story, and so that's my goal. I don't want people to ever feel like they're just wasting time to try and get to that next cool part, you know?
Yeah. Just kind of letting the cool flow into the other cool part and just have nothing but cool
Yeah,
parts. That's the
that's
tricky
it.
part. So yeah, and it sounds like this game's got a very kind of profound theme, things of like life and balance and duty and sacrifice. So um how do these themes kind of manifest in the storyline, and are those things that you're like intentionally trying to push into it, or is it kind of like they just happen to show up? Like what's the story writing process been for you here?
Certain elements are I'm very specifically trying to put them into the story.
Yeah.
Philosophical themes and symbolism are things that I personally really like, and I really respect when they're done in a story well. Things that might make you think in a different way, see a parallel to something in your own life, and make you stop for a second and question the real morality of that, or
Mm-hmm.
what really would be worth it in the end, and the characters' humanities, how they deal with those kind of themes. And basically, my plan with those things, though, is to really let the characters let you digest those sort of themes through the eyes and the personalities of the characters. I'm trying to make each of the characters have a very well-defined personality, and so that you get those sort of clashing opinions and
Yeah.
clashing emotional responses to certain things, but also giving them a chance to change that stance by the end, to grow for better or for worse,
Yeah.
and how they'll have to deal with that in the end. And symbolism is just something that I love in art in general. I love when you can deliver a message without directly delivering that message.
Yeah.
And that plays in. I mean, that's really where the word nostalgia comes into play in the game. As marketable or, on the nose as it can sound, given the genre, it actually maybe plays the largest role in some of the most shocking moments of the story. And I think people are going to be really surprised at how that my interpretation of nostalgia is rather disturbing and unsettling in this
Hmm.
story. And it's not a bubbly, nice, like fond memory of things in the way that you might think.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil too much on that, but symbolism and alternate meanings and basically just our human ability to think deeply about things that maybe are unsettling, or confusing. I think that's huge for stories. I know we talked about Xenogears, and something that I love about that story and that game, even if they ran out of funding and had a hard time finishing it in the end,
Yeah.
I just have to applaud and be mesmerized by the ambition that the developers and writers had in trying to bring very deep philosophical themes into such an incredible fantasy world that just felt massive and felt historic. And I think that's something that really Xenogears really inspired me with the story and trying to be ambitious and bring more of a real human dynamic to some of that.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're, kind of leveraging one of my other favorite aspects of old school RPGs is the maybe the occasional emotional sucker punch or gut punch. Just kind of one of my favorite series of RPGs growing up was the Terranigma Soul Blazer series, the
Oh
trilogy,
yeah.
and like
Oh yeah.
the punctuation points of like things that are you think they're going to be one way, but then they kind of do a little and they twist the knife and it feels
Yeah.
like, based on our discussions here, you're kind of exploring some of that as well, in addition to
Absolutely.
the bright and cheerful and colorful, but also some of the dark. Every bright light casts a shadow, right?
Absolutely. I completely agree. I think the contrast is where a lot of that magic happens. Thing like a if you take a horrible event in someone's life, hypothetical,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think if their life wasn't beautiful and filled with joy and rainbows beforehand, that that event would be nearly as painful as it would if they were used to living such a beautiful, wonderful life. And I think this principle works in art and music too,
Oh yeah.
where an emotional shift in a song is much more impactful if it was a direct contrast to the measure before it and the emotion before it. And I really like playing on that contrast. It's something that I try to do in everything with the game.
Man, that's so cool. So I know that we're already about an hour into this interview, and it just feels
Wow.
like time is just flying. Um,
It does.
but
We
and I
did
have
talk
so many
about
more
this before the
questions.
show. We're like,
I know,
it was gonna run an hour or more,
or more. Yeah.
or more.
So
Sorry, Derry, you were saying.
no. I just wanted to say, like, thank you for one for being here, but uh also I feel like we've had a lot of questions coming in from chat, and I feel like I've
Okay.
been kind of maybe, I mean, it is my show, but I mean, kind of stealing the spotlight here, and I feel like maybe we should give the audience a chance to ask some of their burning questions.
Sure.
Yeah, we definitely had a lot of questions from the audience. Thank you guys for being, so involved with this. But let's go ahead and start with this question here. This is from a new developer, presumably, from someone who is very early in starting their passion indie development project. What's your best advice?
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Ooh, yeah, I know.
I don't know if I could pick like one very specific thing, but if I had to,
Hmm.
it would be to just start immediately in whatever way it is. If you're not marketing yet, start trying to figure out marketing. If you're new to art, just try to go full bore into that because it's very easy, especially starting out, to kind of get caught up in your own idea phases and to like take a long time of just thinking of new things and trying all these things.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, at least personally, when I started, I really held myself back because I would spend so much time thinking and get so caught up in it that I wouldn't actually get into an engine and just
Yeah.
try those things because I would just spend too much time with it. So I would recommend just going full bore. Like don't hold back in any way possible. Just keep trying and enjoy it. And I think my other piece of advice would be to talk to other devs every chance that you can. It's
Yeah.
really the only reason why I've gotten as far as I can because that when you start out in game development, you really are on a raft in the middle of the ocean with no paddle, and you're staring in the horizon in every direction, and it just feels like there's really there's no way to grasp how many different things you need to learn just to get started. And just asking another dev or watching a cool YouTuber tutorial series in whatever engine you want to work on and just get into it and go for it. I think that's just my best. You can only get better. You'll never get
Yeah.
worse.
I
That
think
is a great advice.
I think that mirrors a lot of whenever people ask me about, like, just creative endeavors in general, like, how do I get started? It's like, well, the main thing that separates me from other people who haven't yet made a YouTube channel or gone into art or doing something is just starting. Like,
Yeah.
that's also is just like, if you don't take the first step and commit to doing it, then it'll just never start. So
Yep.
It's true.
Yep.
You have to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
I'll add to that, for folks who are just trying to start up like things in general, look into something called like lean development. Lean development is, or lean thinking.
Mm.
It's really helpful. It talks about things like getting like an MVP out and start, testing and don't be shy. Like, look, everyone starts somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your first past is gonna be bad. It's gonna be ugly. It might not even be playable, not functional. But you've got to start somewhere, and people will give you advice, and they'll give you their honest opinion. And don't be
Absolutely.
shy from
Yeah.
those, because boy, if you think the first thing you're gonna come out is just gonna be like ultra polished and no one hates it, no, you got another thing coming. But
Yeah.
that's like a general content creation, general creator feedback is just whatever raw thing you came up with, go out to market ASAP and just get feedback ASAP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing we were talking, we have a little conversation with all these interviews before the show started. One thing we were talking about is like how people may not understand this, but a lot of the indie developers just like know each other. Like,
Yeah.
That's very
like
true.
you guys won't believe. Yeah, I know it's a secret that you're hearing from now, but all these indie devs, chances are they know each other. Right.
Yes.
And it kind of goes back to what James was saying, like, hey, just ask these questions, and like before you know it, like you've got a couple of like friends who've been there, done it. Like there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. Like there's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
lot of questions that they also asked at some point or another, and they just know the answer, and they can save you a lot of time if you just ask.
Yep. None of
They'll
us
tell
are
you.
as smart as all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for example, I know you had Motzi and Josh Ray from Alterium Shift on the show
Yes.
before,
Yeah.
and Motzi saved me so many headaches with running this Kickstarter. I mean, he is such a sweet person and so helpful. He really was my paddle in the middle of the ocean with this. He told me everything to avoid, everything that I should focus on, the mistakes and the issues, and that goes for everything. And one of the questions I do get the most, especially from Reddit, is people just asking like, how did you form a team, and like how do you find people to work with? And like
Yeah.
I said earlier, if you see somebody making something that you think is awesome and you're getting excited about it, send them a message and tell them, hey, I am super excited about this awesome thing you posted. Like, let's chat. And more often than not, you'll find a new friend, and quite possibly someone to work with. If they're not working on a project and you both agree on how a game should be made, or you can both get excited about it, well, right there you can start working on something together. And even just not in a team, it's always good to learn things from people who have already been there and done it.
Oh
It's
yeah.
invaluable. It's invaluable.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, it's just comes to show that a lot of this space is very collaborative. It's not like competitive.
Yeah.
Like the
And that's
thinking is
exactly
in
what
reverse.
Alterium Shift guys were talking about too.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And for those interviews, check out our previous interviews. Segue.
yeah.
Doing it
Yeah.
like Linus style. All right. Moving on. We do have another question. Speaking of like, putting things in engine, like what software are you currently using to develop this game? Is another question that we've gotten.
Sure, sure. I get this one a lot, and a lot of people are surprised, but Seed of Nostalgia is actually built off of a modern expanded version of the RPG Maker engine.
Mhm.
Oh,
And while what I'm doing is not necessarily very easy to do in that engine, you really kind of have to break it down and expand the engine into something else entirely.
Yeah.
But the beauty of that engine is that it takes care of a lot of really boring framework things like databases and tracking numbers and stats and things for items.
Yep.
Working with that, and that's really the biggest reason why I chose that engine to go with, because I've also used Godot and I've also used Unity, and I'm familiar with those environments, and I hate them to my core. But but the tool itself really allows me to make this game a lot faster than I would if I had to sit there and stare at a Visual Studio C# script for a very
Yeah.
long time, because it takes care of a lot of the boring stuff that I hate, like databases.
Yeah.
And with my coder on my team, who is super incredible, and comes from a realm way beyond game coding and scripting, has been so amazing to work with, because basically if I need anything to be done, I just tell them and they're like, no problem. I'll figure it out, and so that's been amazing, and that's been a big key to using this.
And
this
it's
engine. But really, any tool that you choose is going to be great. The best
yeah,
engine is the one that you're good at, point
that's
blank and
exactly
period.
where I was gonna kind of steer that here is like, you know, sometimes asking about the game engine, it kind of feels like, oh, what kind of canvas did you paint on? It's like, well,
Yeah,
I mean, I could, yeah, here's what I'm using, but really, you could paint on anything. And, you know, it might give you some characteristics to start with, but after a few layers of paint, you're not even going to notice that the canvas is there and it should really disappear. And it clearly does in this case.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And that was actually a kind of a big like goal for me originally, deciding to use the engine, because I really, really wanted to push it to a point where I was basically one of the only people who was doing and pushing and showing that you can do anything you want, as long as you just put enough effort, and have the know-how to how to do it. And it's actually been really cool because I've been reached out to by people that actually work for like Gotcha Games, who own and produce and update that engine. And now they're talking about having us help them make the next iteration of the engine,
yeah.
because I think this kind of thing shows that like people want to make compelling and beautiful things, and someone who's making an engine, you should make that as open source and easy as possible. I mean, being able to use modern shaders and things like that should just be native. So it's been kind of cool talking with them and being able to give them my perspectives on like how they realistically should bring that engine forward, and the future of it. But yeah, like we said, at the end of the day, the best tool is the one that you're very skilled at, and the one that lets you get the work done fastest. And that's going to really help with the development time too. It's going to help us avoid development hell. It's going to make it
Hmm.
so that we can create and pump out content at a much faster rate,
Oh, yeah.
which is going to be great.
Prototyping
It's going to
too.
be cool. Yeah,
And just yeah, getting an MVP like Baku was talking about, a minimum viable product that is,
yeah.
like and being able to prototype and play around with game mechanics, just being able to start that up real quickly is yeah, cannot be understated. So that's
Well,
really
and
great.
also a lot of the drawbacks that the older engines had aren't so much an issue anymore. Like porting the games to consoles and everything is not an issue at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great. It's
Yeah.
it's it's just fine.
Yeah, I think that there's a reason why we're seeing this like I'm maybe reluctant to say renaissance, but like there's definitely like an uptick in very quality indie RPGs springing up
Yeah,
in maybe the last couple of years, especially and moving forward. So
yeah.
this is a very exciting time, as we've said many times, I think on this show. This is a very exciting time to be in this space.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so here is another fun question for you. This is more of a fun question. Uh, Where do you store all the energy to keep up with the game, the Kickstarter, the Discord,
I
and
was actually just talking
this
to my Discord
magnificent beard?
too. Yeah, okay. Yeah, my Discord friends were basically forcing me to go to sleep last night, because this since the Kickstarter has come out, like the blur of reality now, because there's always a million things I should be doing and can do. So I basically wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and kind of have quiet time checking up on all the stuff that's happened, and then I get to work. And if I'm not working on like the campaign page itself, I've been in so many meetings with publishers, manufacturers, distributors,
Mm.
you name it, basically trying to bring more rewards to to people that might want something tangible and physical. And I don't know if you saw, but like we were trying to kind of do things a little bit different. So instead of doing like a standard art book, I really wanted to bring back that 90s player's guide vibe.
Oh,
And so
like a magazine. Oh,
exactly. And so we
yes.
kind of mashed that up. It's going to be like a smaller form old school player's guide that shows you where all the secrets, stat sheets, and just filled to the brim with tons of artwork. We're
Hmm.
working with an amazing artist named Marcel Muskie from France who paints in watercolor, like traditional Japanese watercolor, and it's
Yes.
incredible
Wow.
because there's a texture that you get from that paint drying on the canvas that's
Yeah.
just irreplaceable. And
Is that
so
the art that's on our screen right here between you and I? Is
yeah,
that
he did
that's
that.
the artist?
He's
Oh.
also done the artwork for Chained Echoes, for
Oh,
Moonstone Island. Alter M Shift worked with him. And he's really cool because he's a huge JRPG fan too. And everything he does is basically JRPG adjacent and stylized. So I was really happy to work with him. And I'll be really happy to completely fill that player's guide with tons of character artwork and just little touches everywhere. So I thought that was kind of a fun way to kind of put our own spin, like our own retro spin on it.
I love it. I remember like just when I one of my first strategy guides that I just spent way too much time with was like a original Pokemon Red and Blue
Oh
guide
yeah.
that had like the stat blocks with like the different like overlays of like the different stats, the art for each Pokemon and like high resolution, and they were all this awesome watercolor style. So it's like
Yeah.
just taking all the right nostalgia vibes here.
Man, okay. Here is another question. Speaking of the gameplay and just like letting your characters power up and just like sort of like bulldoze, you know, opponents,
Hmm.
potentially, would this game be considered some kind of a power fantasy, or no? This is really just within reason, that you can sort of take advantage of some strategies.
Within reason is a good question. I basically my goal at the end of the game is that if a very normal player wants to play just through the storyline and kind of shoot through it,
Hmm.
beat those main story bosses and get to the end of the game to where the credits roll, I want them to be able to do that without too much extraneous activity or grinding or crafting. I want
Yeah.
them to be able to basically just kind of enjoy the game if they want to, and as they would like to, I should say. And then with side content, with optional content, and with end game content, I have a lot more free range to really ramp up the difficulty in certain situations. I'm not a huge fan of just like gear or stat check difficulty though, where it's like, hey, if you got the levels and you got the gear, then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I kind of like those little roadblocks to be a little bit more strategic. So you might get stuck and see a game over screen because that optional mini boss uses some sort of abilities or things that you haven't seen before. And so
Yeah.
the challenge is like figuring out what they're doing that's messing you up, and then finding a strategy that works against it.
Nice.
And I've got a lot of people that have messaged me. Actually, we've been talking about this on my Discord the last few days about difficulty specifically, and yeah, the challenge is kind of just finding that middle ground. But the consensus kind of seems to be that if the brutally challenging stuff is optional, then everybody's kind of happy because
Yeah.
the real hardcore players have a lot to sink their teeth into. And I'm a big end game guy too. I really love when games kind of open up with the hardest and coolest content, so you can kind of hang around for a few more extra hours before you go fight the last boss.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of plans for the end game, and I'm just trying to find that middle ground where there is plenty of challenge if you want to go and tackle it. And a lot of that optional content is going to require that you're spending some time making your builds, getting your gear, and you'll get rewarded for making those good builds. So I'm not tying it down completely. I do kind of want to let people min max and break it a little bit with a few, but within reason. So,
Yeah.
like if they get that perfect build, they get those perfect items, then yeah, they can be a little bit crazy if they want
Yeah.
to.
Cool. I love
That's
that.
great.
That's something in my RPG reviews I like to refer to as ludicrous efficiency, and it's wonderful. I love
Yeah.
being able to connect systems together just to really synergize and like throw numbers into the stratosphere if I can. Uh,
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
so
Well,
so
I'm glad to hear that too because
and Oh.
They're generally two kinds of like difficulty like
Yeah.
that I see in RPGs. There's difficulty by numbers and stats, and then
Mhm.
there's difficulty by mechanics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're describing is difficulty by mechanics, more like you have to use your noggin a little bit. Like, what skill would work here? Like Final Fantasy V is probably like a great the example where like, hey, this boss is very hard unless you have this class and this skill, and it just negates that difficulty so that you can, I mean, you still have to work a little bit, but you got to play around with the skills and whatnot to get through
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Otherwise, I mean, sure, you could just bulldoze this boss, but it's going to be 10 times harder if
Yeah.
you try to bulldoze the boss. You can, but it will be
Yeah. If you
harder.
want to
Uh,
grind 30 levels over where you're
yeah,
supposed to be,
sure,
you
go
can
nuts,
just
but
steamroll right through it. But you also
yeah,
just grinded for that many hours. So,
yeah,
of
I love
course.
it.
I would
And
rather
I think
spend
that's
30 hours trying to circumnavigate the correct direction than spend 5 doing just the
absolutely
storyline that would.
refuse to do. I know what you want me to do, game, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I am
No,
going
I
to
think, I
brute
think,
force my way over that mountain rather than going around it,
yeah,
even
absolutely.
if it
No,
takes 10 times as long.
I
Yeah.
think the bosses that RPG fans remember most are all the ones that are not hard by stats. No one remembers the one that are just difficult because they're super tanky
Because,
and it takes
yeah,
10 hours to beat. Like, no,
Yeah.
it's just always the really cool mechanic. Oh, that one boss. Oh, I remember. Like they did this crazy thing, and then like if you knew to use the skill, and then you can negate it, and then it's those are the things that we gush about. So I
Yeah.
cannot wait to
or
see
sometimes we
what
gush
sort
about
of
the boss that you can one shot because you used a revive spell on it instead.
Yes.
oh, you would never forget those, right?
But yeah,
We're
it's
we're a
funny.
bunch of RPG nerds, if you guys can't tell, right?
Yeah.
It's funny you should mention though, like at the end, going and like doing all like the end game stuff, because I feel like there's nothing I like more to do more in an RPG than procrastinate against saving the entire world from like the fate.
Absolutely.
It's
I
like, yeah,
completely agree.
I need to protect the world from this impending doom, but also I'm gonna go fishing in this well so I can get the dragon sword. It's
Yeah.
like what who even how does that work? It doesn't matter. You just do it because the guide said so.
Totally agree. And I think that plays into pacing directly too, because you can't just be fighting and fighting and fighting and
Yeah.
doing these dungeons forever. One of the best parts about it is you do something hard and then you get to go back to that cozy new village
Yeah.
with that beautiful music playing, and you got mini games and there's side quests, and you could just hang out in that region for a while.
It comes back to contrast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And like slice of life moments with the characters too. It's like you
Yes.
can't forget about those moments to really like show the texture of their personalities in just normal scenes. And it's a great way to bring in humor and everything else too. And I'm a big fan of humor in these games too. I like to take the story very seriously, but of course, humor is part of the genre. It's
Oh,
necessary.
It
Baku and
is
I have been talking
absolutely
about this recently, where like it feels like people have kind of forgotten how to put humor into. Well, when I say people, I think we can say like there's a certain AAA studio kind of mentality where it's like, oh, we put all this funding into a game, we cannot have a sense of humor anymore. Like there's
Mhm.
too much money to be funny here. But like,
Yeah.
but growing up, that was half the game was like, haha, here's this funny like I don't know what is Puff Puff like.
Yes.
Like it's a staple. It's a staple of the genre to have some stupid jokes that just make no sense
Yeah.
and just kind of make the world feel. It's the absurdity of some scenarios that can make a world feel even more real, which is kind of
yeah.
weird to say it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But we were
I
talking
mean,
about
humor does
Earthbound
this
earlier.
other
I think
thing
that's a
too
great
when
example of that.
Oh my gosh, yes.
yeah,
I
like
mean,
when
almost
there's
every dialogue in that game could either make you crack up out loud or think deeply. And
yeah.
yeah, it's just the world feels real. And when you look at it, there's no reason why that world should feel real.
I know. I know. Well, part of it is I
I
grew up
love
in that
that.
world, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yes, 1990X, small town America.
Yep, 100%.
Okay, we do have some more questions.
Yeah.
These are probably going to be a little deeper. If they're wondering if there's anything that you would like to unique that you're incorporating in this game that you have just sort of always wanted to see in other games and just didn't, but you're like, you know what, I'm gonna put this in my game.
Um, I don't know if there's one very specific thing that I went out of my way to have in this game. I think my process and what I did was more of taking a look at many different things that I liked in other games and cherry picking each of those elements and then bringing them together.
Hmm.
I've never really set out with primitive pixels in general to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
I've more wanted to celebrate the things that I've loved about games in an unashamed sort of manner. And so I don't think that there's a very specific thing, but I think that I have put a lot of effort into making sure that all of the little aspects are kind of the
Cohesive.
best of the world and cohesive together,
Yeah.
like we talked about earlier about kind of smashing the mystery of a random encounter with on-map
Yeah.
visible enemies. I mean, it's just kind of taking the little things that I like about those games, and also like if you run into the back of an enemy encounter before they see you, you get to attack first. You know, just like all of these sort of these little elements that I really like. And like for the gameplay loop or the exploration loop, for example, in the game, is kind of just a further thing from that. So I break it down into sections that all work. So at the top level, at least fairly early into the campaign, you've got your overworld map, and I think everybody here, of course, we all love RPGs, and so we all love our overworld maps. It's just a given. And so you start on this sort of abstracted, zoomed out world to explore, and from that overworld map, you can enter regions, what I call regions, and these are more like villages or cities, you know, sort of your hubs. And
Yeah.
this is where you're going to get a lot of content. But instead of nostalgia, each region, like even though there's an overarching story and there's quests that take you across multiple regions, each region is also kind of a self-contained area with its own content and its own rewards. And completing those regional rewards gets you regional or regional goals, gets you regional rewards. And so you've got villages or you've got cities, you've got outposts, you have like a base camp and a forest. These are like our hub kind of areas, very traditional. All the games have kind of done this. But then we have field areas which are specifically attached to that region hub area. So from the overworld map, you enter a village. This village might have three different paths that you can get to from that village, maybe crossing a river and going into a forest. Maybe you can climb down a well and there's an entire sewer system under this village,
Oh, yeah.
or there's a mountain pass. And so these field areas are attached to that hub, and generally the quest content that you get in that region will be accomplished within those fields. And then to further that, within the fields are dungeons, and you can access those and play through them. And so those field areas are where the game is kind of open in its own contained way. And so we've got like shrines in the fields. Like many RPGs, this will refill your health and your resources and all that. But these also unlock fast travel points within that field area.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if it, like we were talking about, Derek, sometimes it's nice to just procrastinate and waste time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm focusing the gameplay loop of these regions is. If you like a specific region, you can spend more time there, and there's content to expand. And that way I didn't have to make a world map that's essentially you just moving over empty space texture
Hmm.
forever and get to these things. Like the world map is packed with
I
these
love that, by the
regions
way.
and these contents. Thanks. And then within the region, it lets us make any environment within that place and give you a place to explore and find tons of treasure and go find those dungeons. And with the shrines, the further that you push into those fields, you can just warp back to town, restock, change your characters out, do whatever you need, and then warp back and push ahead to get to that dungeon. And so that loop is pretty much everywhere in the game. You go to a new region, you pick up some content, you buy new equipment, you do some mini games, push into the fields, and it's total exploration in the field. And just find people, find challenges, find secrets, just treasure everywhere. I'm absolutely addicted to plopping treasure chests in every hidden place I possibly can. I love it.
Yep.
Sometimes I go crazy. I'm like doing level design and I get done with it. I'm like, this looks good. And then I look and there's like 13 treasure chests on a single map. And I'm like, I think I've gone too far. I need to like maybe delete 10 of those.
I know. That's the thing, like, because I know that if they're there, then I'm gonna go look for them, and that means I'm gonna find 95% of them, and then I'm just gonna be like loaded down with all this rare loot. So it's like you got to make sure that like they're strategically located, and that they won't, way overpower me.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So I
Yeah.
guess to answer the question very shortly, I never set out for one specific unique thing. I've not been trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just trying to polish and make each of the elements that make the game as fun as possible.
Yeah. No,
Dude,
no new
that's great
pizza
to hear.
ingredients, just your favorite ingredients.
Yeah. I credit where credit's due for folks who want to innovate, but if they stake their entire game on like a hinge innovation and
Hmm.
just neglect all the other components,
Yeah.
that's that typically doesn't make for a very good game. On the contrary, right? If you
Yeah.
focus on the fundamentals and really get them right, it is the foundation for very powerful storytelling.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I am happy to hear that that is the philosophy here. Um, okay, so maybe not necessarily innovative, but if there is one feature that your team is super proud of, what might that be?
Ooh. Hmm. I think the combat system. I
Mhm.
think it's something that people are gonna have a lot of fun with. Mainly because we're layering options for strategy, and all of these kind of play into each other into the grand scheme of things. So we're aiming for normal fights to be fast. I don't want people to get stuck in 10-minute long random battles. So I think normal battles, if
Yeah.
you're playing your cards right, I want you to basically just be able to. I like normal battles being kind of your testing ground, seeing
Mhm.
what can really get the big numbers to pop up, and to like slowly educate you about certain dangers and statuses and things that can happen in the area you're at. But it's a turn-based system. So there the combat engine is checking every turn for what's happening in that turn. So you can place certain status effects or do enough damage to an enemy in one go that you can stagger them enough to drop them back multiple turn orders. There's also somewhat complex, but actually pretty simple elemental sort of affinity trade-off, where everything is kind of strong against another and weak against another with that. And there's a lot of ability, like for example, our elementalist Alistair, the Obsidian Mage, he has a really cool set of abilities where he can change the weather during combat. And the cool thing
Oh.
about that is that weather does affect combat. If you're in an area where it's raining, lightning damage is amplified and also arcs to the other enemies that it basically takes a single target spell and it makes it hit all enemies. And
Ooh.
so
That's
there's
cool.
there's different effects like that. And so his sort of specialty is that he can actually change the weather on the fly, thus giving himself those extra benefits even if the weather doesn't do it. The danger is that the enemies will take advantage of that too.
Mm.
And so the
Yep.
enemies are going to, specifically harder enemies, mini bosses and bosses, are going to try to exploit you in every chance they get. They're going to try to turn the battle. Basically their goal is to stop you from doing anything as best that they can. Now,
Yeah.
certain enemies are better at that than others. Some just stand no chance, but
Sure.
um, it's kind of that that feeling where at the beginning of every turn you're like you do have multiple choices to move here and none of them are necessarily wrong.
Yeah.
But if you want to, you can really exploit things. And for me, that's fun. And it's a lot of fun when the enemies are trying to exploit you too, because of course you're going to get mad and then you're going to want to kill them a million
Equal
times more
opportunity
too.
reign.
Yeah.
So this is kind of tangentially touching on another question, or raising another question for me, and that's that I feel like sometimes when it comes to things like status effects and various strategies, a lot of games kind of sidestep the issue of like them being pretty powerful by just not allowing bosses to become status affected.
Mm.
What's currently your approach to balancing status effects for those kinds of like major boss fights?
Certain bosses are immune to certain status effects, but no boss is going to be completely immune.
Oh, good.
It's an easy way to kind of balance bosses and make them extra hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if we're telling people to be doing this stuff the whole game, like exploit and find what element this person is weak to or whatever, and then like you get to the actual hard challenges and it's like, forget about it. You can't do any of that stuff anymore. You just need to suffer as they're charging their final ultimate for the third time, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the fun. And I liked
Mhm.
that a lot about like Chrono Trigger is a good example, well, for a lot of things, but I loved in that game where when you enter a new dungeon or area, the enemies are going to show you what the boss's strategies are, basically. Like they're going to show you that they're going to use specific elements, or you have to use magic or physical,
Mm-hmm.
or they're going to shift, like in Magus, it's going to shift where you can only do this type of damage or you can only do that type of damage. And then you
Yeah.
get to the boss and it's that strategy, but it's maximized and it's way harder now. I like that sort of just teaching through smaller fights, but it's way more fun when you can use all of the tools at your disposal on the hardest fights. So no, I'd rather just let them be exploitable.
That makes a lot of sense, and that's good to hear.
And
Okay.
there's obviously very specific fights that are very tied to the story, which will be immune to certain things, but that's because that's how it is in the story. So, and I'll always put little backdoor strategies for people to try and figure out.
Nice.
Excellent. So I've only got two more questions. The first one is, will there be mini games? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about them?
There absolutely will be mini games. I adore mini games. I'm hoping to have kind of unique ones in a lot of different regions. I'd like to try quite a few different things. Um, right now, there's one mini game that's confirmed because of our community goals we've been running with the Kickstarter, and that is a chicken racing mini game that is a little more hardcore than I think people are going to realize. It's actually based on an inside joke from one of the first live devlogs I ever did, where a chicken had decided to climb a tree right outside my window and start cacawing during the stream. And so everyone's just listening to this cacophony of
I didn't
echoing
know that chickens
rooster.
can climb trees until I
They,
saw
they,
one on
yeah.
the news. I'm like, what do you mean it's on the tree? Like, what?
And so we added that one. That's like a mini game that also has a little mini quest line attached to
Mhm.
it too, and I kind of like that. But I plan to have lots of little mini games and
Nice.
diversions just in general, just fun little things to do and get some rewards. One of the first stretch goals we unlocked is something called Abner's Traveling Slotorium, which is
Mhm.
like a traveling circus mixed with a like an arena boss rush kind of mode.
Okay.
And so you'll be able to face waves of harder and harder stuff for better rewards. And there's actually like a betting mechanic there too. And yeah, so I mean, I'd love to add
Damn.
fishing, and
Mhm.
me and the team have been talking about fishing, but we
Mm-hmm.
actually would really love to do fishing in a different way. I can't really
Mm.
say how that's going to be yet, but I've been seeing some stuff that's been really inspiring. Like there's another game that was actually just on Kickstarter. I think
Mhm.
they just finished. It's called Isle of Reveries. It's kind of like a Link's Awakening style game,
Yeah.
And he had a fishing mini game in there, so I saw it on his little update and I pulled it up. And his fishing mini game is that you have like a Pokemon one-on-one battle with this fish, and
Oh,
the artwork is so good and so funny. I just thought it was the most unique, interesting thing I'd ever seen for a fishing mini game.
I
But
love the
yeah,
idea of a fishing minigame just done off the wall. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, I think that really there are many debates about what makes a game a JRPG as opposed to
Yeah.
just an RPG, and one of those I think that people overlook is the inclusion of a fishing minigame. I think that that is kind of foundational,
Yeah.
yeah.
and everything else is kind of secondary. In
Yeah.
fact, little known fact, the best known best selling JRPG of all time was Bass Pro Fishing. So
It's true. I can't argue against facts. Actually, I lied. We now have two final questions.
Okay.
Okay, the semi-final question. Um, how do you deal with burnouts? Sorry, I miscounted. That was my fault. How does the team deal with burnouts?
That's a good question. I can really only speak mainly for myself because uh, with the team and with people working with me, a big thing for me is like um, never really asking them to do something that I wouldn't want to do or feel comfortable asking them to do in real life. I don't want them to ever feel burnout or feel like this is something they have to do. They're very passionate and awesome people, so they want to do it, and
Mhm.
that's what's so cool about it. And so for my structure with them, I really want to just like offer many different projects for them to work on and let them kind of pick and choose because I really truly believe if they're passionate about something and having fun, they're going to do a way better job than if it's something they feel like, oh God, I've got to make a new UI or something, and like they're not going to be happy about it. So as far as for them, I'm just going to try to do everything I can to let them be creative and do what they want to enjoy. For myself, I'm a very happy workaholic when it comes to developing indie games. I don't purposely mean to, but sometimes when I get into it, I can just sit there and do it for 12 or 14 hours straight without even realizing it until I realize I'm starving to death.
you
Um,
like come out of the zone and you're like, oh my god, you have a beard. Oh wait,
yeah, that's how I got
So
this.
that's
Yeah.
how it happened.
what year is
Um,
it?
but burnout is real.
Hmm.
I feel like actually I've learned more about dealing with burnout and keeping my mental health in order over the last 6 months than I ever have. Basically, since we started really pushing for the Kickstarter and marketing and trying to get the game out there and build a buzz so we can do even crazier, cooler things. I did put myself through a few phases where it was unhealthy, very evidently unhealthy, the amount that I was working and pushing myself. It's a bit hard for me because I do enjoy it so much, so I can do it without feeling like I'm hurting myself, but it's not good. I'll
Hmm.
just say like what I realize is that if you push yourself to that point where you're overworking so much, the quality of your work is going to get worse. You're
Mm.
better off working 6 hours and then getting a good night's sleep than working 12 hours and the quality of the last six is just horrible. So I think avoiding burnout is don't set very unrealistic goals for yourself. Don't be mean on yourself. Nothing is worth, not just sacrificing your mental health, but maybe making you give up on a project because you just can't mentally deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
And so don't put too unrealistic goals on yourself. Give yourself smaller goals that you can accomplish one at a time, and you'll feel a lot better. And just I like to take personal time to be re-inspired by new things. Go on a walk or go on a trip or try something new or whatever lights your heart on fire and makes you feel great and makes you feel happy or inspires you. Just always make time to do that, even if you feel like you need to crunch a bit, because again, the quality of work when you're feeling inspired and you're feeling motivated is going to be so much better than if you're just feeling like you'd rather die than stare at the screen any longer.
was gonna say that's some
Uh,
great advice. May we all manage to find a way to internalize that at some point.
yeah, I think especially for folks who are who are very much like go-getter and just
Yeah.
uh I had the word in my head when I was listening in, but now I lost the word. High achievers, like people who
Yeah.
are like
Yeah.
high achievers. You have a hard time
People who are
distinguishing
highly
between
motivated and
yeah, highly motivated individuals.
I think I know
Yeah.
the word you're trying to think of, but I can't quite remember it
Yeah,
either.
I
Ah,
know. Like I had
Ambitious
the word
yes,
or
ambitious. That's the
ambitious.
word.
okay.
Yeah, you have a
Thank
hard
you.
time distinguishing between, if you're overdoing it or not working hard enough. It's just in the
Yeah.
back of your mind, like, yeah, but I don't want to regret this like a week from now because I didn't work just a little harder to get
Yeah.
that little bit of thing. And then, when I run into that wall, it's like, well, had I just worked a little harder before, so I don't want that regret. But then you end up
Yeah.
burning out and you don't even
Mhm.
realize you're burning out until you take a step back. It's like, whoa, okay, what was I doing?
I,
Yeah, and
I
I
hear
think
you.
that's dangerous too, because if you're not, you might just think, oh, I'm just so tired because I've been working a lot. But then you start to realize that every time you try to work on that project, there's just like this creeping apathy setting in because it's
ugh.
just you've turned it into your own enemy basically to continue working on it. And
Hmm.
Yeah,
and that's the real risk. The real risk is just giving up and never getting to accomplish what you really want to do.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Take your
All
time.
right. We got one last question. This is from
All
our
right.
friend Still Alive. Oh, by the way, we've got a one of your developer actually came in. I think
Oh,
it's
cool.
BioStick. Yeah. So
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
thing we're talking about burnout. It's like, oh, you hear that? um, Okay, so the last question that we've got is this, and this is from our friend Still Alive. It's a super chat question. Question for James about indie games in general. So this is not necessarily just yours, but anything. Do you feel your game might not get the attention it deserves because of the like indie game label?
Mm, that's a pretty nuanced question. There's a lot going on there because it's it's hard to quantify what the game deserves, first of all.
Yeah.
I maybe previously I would have said yeah, indie games have a hard time getting out there and being seen and taken seriously. But I don't know if that's really the case as we're moving forward because obviously there's a lot of issues in the AAA space, in corporate gaming in general. There's a lot of kind of uncertainty with the studios that have led the industry for so long.
Yep.
And yet indies kind of we're all just doing our thing. I mean, for us, it's a lot more about needing to make that passion project than it is about needing to make sure that the shareholders don't cut your head off next quarter. And so I really think that indie games and indie game developers and people who love indie games are that space of relevance is only going to grow, especially if things continue. And now we've got a lot of people kind of investing in that, with like the Triple I initiative and some of these other cool things. Personally, I think actually indie games are always going to have a very important place in gaming, and in a big way preserving the spirit of what make games so cool to begin with.
What is this triple I initiative that you're talking about? I don't think I've heard that phrase before.
This was some big stream that happened earlier this week. I noticed SacriFire was on there from
Oh,
JRPGs,
oh, is
but
this the one
basically
Baku was
it's
telling me about before this show started?
Yeah.
yeah, it's basically a showcase for indies that are pushing boundaries and really kind of bending the idea of what indie developers can do. It's
Okay.
and stuff like that is just awesome. But I think there's always a space for indies, and right now, from my point of view, I think the indie game world is stronger than ever.
I think you're absolutely
Absolutely.
right. Yeah, and even uh, Biosic, uh, who Baku mentioned before. I hope I said that right. Uh,
Yeah.
they basically said the same thing, that it feels like indies are kind of getting more attention now than ever before, and I think that that's absolutely true. Um, gosh, I know that I personally, for like the first 5 6 years of just making RPG reviews, I am ashamed to admit it, I didn't really do a whole lot of indie coverage, and that's my bad, because as soon as I started covering more indies, I started having more fun. Um,
Mm,
because they just tell a often a more concise and more distilled experience, and a great story, and because they don't have time to waste your time, or they don't have the funding to build a game that
yeah.
wastes your time.
Yeah.
Like
It's
there are
it can be a benefit. Yeah.
Yeah.
it
Having to
can.
like do the most within the confines of what you're able to.
Yes, yes. Constraints are a mother of creativity for a lot of games back in the day, and it's true for
Mhm.
indies as well. And it's just, and you're able to innovate in ways and experiment in ways that like Final Fantasy can't. Like Final Fantasy
You
has
don't have to
to
answer the stakeholders for
Yeah.
stockholders for
Yeah.
that one.
exactly.
Yeah.
They can't just include a weird like Frogger style fishing mini game in Final Fantasy like 17 or whatever, where you have to you know navigate the fish through all the obstacles to get. I just made that up. I don't know, but like they can't do that. I mean
Yeah.
Mhm.
they I don't know. We'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
indie games,
So
figuring out the best way to make the best fishing mini games.
the thing that I was telling Derek about earlier was called the Indie Live Expo, and that
Oh
actually
yeah.
happened,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
earlier today.
Oh, cool.
And which we'll cover later on after the show, after the interview. We'll talk a little bit about it. There's something like 40 games, or if not more than that, all indies that and they're all very like polished games that I have to sit through and like, okay, which one do you guys care about? Then I have to do some investigation. So yeah, so but we'll talk more about those. But I will say that from like a small content creator perspective, I think maybe that's part of the reason why indies is getting a lot more traction too, because there used to be a time where if you don't have a triple A game budget company behind you, you're not getting that name out there,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? But with small content creators, with Twitch just streaming these games, like it's
Yeah.
not hard to get these words out there to a lot of people who are very dedicated. And
Yeah.
the thing is, the people are self-selected, right? It's not like getting a microphone and not a microphone,
Megaphone.
what it, yeah, megaphone, and just like blasting out names and just screaming things in the ether, but rather people are very dedicated to certain channels like our own and some of our friends who plays JRPGs. Those fans self-select. They are JRPG fans. They are the target audience. They are the people
Yeah.
who are very passionate about the stuff, and they are the people that you need to get to.
Yeah.
So maybe not patting ourselves on the back a little bit, but to
Yeah.
me, at least part of the reason why I think indie games, I mean, obviously we've already talked about the fact that indie games, the quality has just gotten better over the years, and there are
Yeah.
more new developers all the time getting into the space, showcasing their talents.
Yeah.
So the fact that developing is more accessible, but
Yeah.
for us to get those words out there, you don't need a crazy budget anymore to get your game out there. Like people will find you one way or another, and they will self-select. The people who really care about this stuff, they will find you, if anything. Which
Yeah.
is that's I think that's the shift in thinking, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely a great time to be alive, and it's not like an overly crowded space either.
Yeah.
Probably because the games are literally what just Derek just said. They're short enough that tells you an amazing story, but not long enough to like really overstay their welcome. You're moving on to
Yeah.
like the next thing and enjoying another world.
Yeah.
Super great time to be in this space now. And yeah, and that basically completes all the questions that I have on my end. Derek, do you have any final questions for James?
Yeah, well, I mean, I do have the traditional way to close this out. I feel like every time I interview an indie dev, I always want to ask them like, what is the question I should have asked? What is one thing that like you came on here, you're excited to be here and tell everybody about this thing, and then I never asked the question. What should I have asked you?
Yeah,
What is the
Derek,
cool
how
thing?
dare you
How
not
dare
Yeah,
ask
I?
first of all,
a
how
question?
dare you not ask me that one question? Um, wow, that's tough. That's tough.
Sorry,
Well, it's
we
just a
we
catch
ask
all to
tough
make sure I
questions.
don't screw
Yeah,
myself over. Is all.
I don't think that there. I think we did cover everything that I had hoped to. Yeah, I think it's
Okay,
been great.
awesome. All
All
right.
right.
Well, man, this I think has turned into our longest interview so far.
Really.
I'm here for it though. I very much enjoyed that. So thank you so much for joining us, man. It has been a
My
pleasure.
pleasure.
I cannot
Thank you
wait
so much.
to get hands on when I mean, and I know it's way too
So
early to even ask, but
Yeah.
demo?
yeah, actually, probably sooner than you think. As soon as the
No.
campaign is over and we can actually focus again, um, a lot of the demo is already done. For
Mhm.
example, I probably made the 76 to 80 different map level designs for the demo areas last year already. Um,
Oh,
Basically, what we need to do after the campaign is there's elements of it that I want to level up to our post Kickstarter level of polish. So I want to get our pixel artists and spriters making updates, adding some new environmental animations and things. Just kind of bringing that first hour plus of the game to the level that I want the entire game to be at, kind of a
yeah.
vertical slice. But my hope is to have that done before the end of summer. So it's
Ooh.
actually a possibility that we could be there pretty quickly.
That's very enticing. Everybody, if you're not already following the game on Steam, well, make sure you do. You can find it on Steam. You can wish list it. That's a very good positive signal that you should be sending to Steam right now because this game absolutely deserves it. And also, you should probably go check out the Kickstarter, which again is linked. It's pinned as a comment here. That you can go click on, and then you can throw money at the game to help make sure that really cool things happen. I think one of your upcoming stretch goals is hitting. Well, one of the further away ones that's just barely been kind of shown is that there's a stretch goal for console releases, which is really really cool. And I know that there are other things that like we can't guarantee yet about potential physicals sometime down the line, but the more money you throw at it, the more likely that it will be. So go give these guys some support because this looks like it's going to be so much fun.
Yeah,
Oh
we're
my gosh, I
almost
cannot wait.
almost there for the 65K goal. Just a little bit
Wow, she's so
What's
close.
Oh yeah, one of those goals was also like a anime cutscenes throughout the game. Is that
Yeah, we got
right?
that a few days ago. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, I
more.
think we talked about it in the chat at some point,
mm-hmm.
but the Lunar series is one of my favorite series of all time, and so the cutscenes felt like a mandatory addition to the story. And I've got an awesome animation team I'm working with called Nethertail Studio,
Mhm.
and they're currently watching all this info on Lunar and Grandia and all this sort of cool stuff. So it's something I'm very excited to add, and I think it's
Man.
really going to enhance those, like we were talking about earlier, those little slice of life moments on top of just adding a cinematic flair to some of the biggest events. So really excited about that one.
Heck yes. Well,
All right.
I guess on that note, since we're talking about Lunar and Grandia, Baku, I mean, James, you are more than welcome to stick around for the if you'd like and watch some trailers for us,
Yeah,
or you can bounce
sure.
whatever you. Okay, cool. We'll keep you around. You're a temporary guest of HitPoint. All right.
Hey.
Okay. So let's go ahead and shift some gears now. I don't even know what we're driving, but we're shifting gears into some upcoming releases.
That's right.
All right. There, let
All
me push the
right.
button.
Did you push the button?
I did push the
Get
button.
it?
Yep, sure did.
All right, let's talk about this. Everybody knows this is coming up, but we just want to have an opportunity to geek out with you over this. And that is the LUNAR Remastered collection that features widescreen layout, 16 by 9, fantastic. Updated character portraits, right? Enhanced sounds and graphics, English voice acting, and more. And this is important. If you don't like any of those things, you can play the classic mode and you can just play the game, right? So let's take a look at the story trailer and let's get hyped. Let's get excited.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Speaking of weird, hey, I'm so glad that Gunho is willing to do stuff with these now.
Oh, I know.
We talked about it for like 3-4 years. They're like, oh, is Gunho gonna do it? Is Gunho gonna do it? And look, they're doing it.
It has been so long.
Yes, for those who don't know, Gunho isn't exactly known for like console release. Like, I think they bought this IP through like another purchase of like the parent company.
Game Arts,
but since they owned IP, but Gunho is really about like mobile games, right? So we're like, well, are they going to do anything with this title? And the answer is yes, they absolutely are.
Thankfully.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. I love these scenes.
The animation.
It's so nicely upscaled.
Like you can speed up the battle.
Oh man.
It looks so good too.
Ooh.
Oh, it's good voice acting. I gotta say, it's different. It's different voice acting from before.
Yes.
Yeah, they replaced the whole Working Designs voice acting team, didn't they?
Yeah, they kind of had to. I think their hand was forced, unfortunately. But
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. From what I've heard, the new ones are good though.
Yeah, they sound really good. And I mean, honestly, Null. There's something about Null's voice actor in the beginning. This is just kind of like a bit extreme.
I need to listen to like more of the voice acting, like because I feel like I would have been fine either ways. Like if they keep like the 90s like 2000s kind of like janky voice acting, I would have been fine. Or if they do like a really polished modern day English voice acting, I'd be equally happy. Oh no, we lost James. What are you doing there?
Geez.
Yep. James, come
James
back.
is back.
And we're back.
That muscle memory is never gonna.
That muscle memory, yeah. And then next Sunday when we have no guest, you're just gonna go to this.
Oh yeah,
we're like, oh, we missed James already.
But yeah, the LUNAR HD collection, it looks like it's just so nicely done. Like, did they find the original source for like the cells from the animation, or did they take them from like the super artifacty recordings from like the PlayStation or the ones from Saturn, and then like upscale them somehow and clean them up? Like, what did they do? It's just it's clean.
We probably get a better idea once we get our hands on it and see it for ourselves. And you at home can also get this collection of the first and second game in a bundle on April 18th on PS4, Xbox One, the Switch, and PC via Steam. So you really have no excuse not to pick this one up.
Man, I'm gonna be really interested to hear the difference in the voice acting, because the at least the very beginning of LUNAR 1 definitely had a bit of that like Speed Racer sound, like where they just have to shove in all the words really quick in order to like get off what they have to say before the cutscene ends. And it's so
kind of perfect.
I can't remember the best friend's name. That like it's at the very beginning when they introduce Alex, and then his friend shows up, who eventually becomes like the merchant of a nearby town. But like just that particular scene, I remember him just like going 1,000 miles an hour with his voice, and it's just it's great. But yeah, I wonder how it's going to be different now.
Yeah, it's the flavor of the time, and we relish it.
Yeah.
All right, sir. And that concludes all the upcoming release. Just this one game this week.
Yep.
But you know what? I feel like that's enough, right? That's good enough to add it to your never-ending backlog, right?
That's right.
Now we've got a couple
Yeah.
of new games, starting with Mr. Derek.
Oh my gosh. Guys, we've been talking about SacriFire for some time, but now developer Pixelated Milk have announced a release date for their upcoming RPG, SacriFire, along with a brand new trailer that I'm going to go watch that right now. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just going to put on this trailer here.
Let's go.
You've got nowhere left to run.
This game has been living rent-free in my mind
It's real.
for the last few years.
It's what we fight against.
For those who are watching now with us, there's a new track by Motoi Sakuraba in this trailer right now.
To really help Antioch.
Really?
What do you want us to do? I won't lie to you. We're in a crisis.
I do like the Valkyrie profile as gameplay.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
ready for it
yeah.
again.
Did you ever play the demo when that came out?
I did not.
I-
I try to avoid demos if I know I will play this game. I just want like fresh everything when it comes out.
I don't do
Demos is only for either I am doing like a QA thing for somebody, or if I'm not sure if I'm gonna play the game.
that. Okay,
But
so
this I'm sure.
no, there he goes.
No, James, come
No,
back.
we got him back. Sorry, I keep accidentally putting James in a pocket dimension every time we stop watching a trailer, and it's a good thing I remember to pull you back before you start to suffocate in there, because I don't know how much oxygen is actually. It's like a bag of holding, I think.
Not before State of Nostalgia come out, Derek. Not before then.
So, SacriFire is coming out in Q1 of 2026 for PC via Steam and Good Old Games, and then some other modern platforms later in 2026. So
Yeah.
that's pretty exciting. So we don't have a release date, but it's a window. It's a
At least
while
time
away.
frame, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the game looks pretty sick, man. Not
It
gonna
looks
lie.
so cinematic and just
I know.
like when they did in the early part of the trailer when they're showing sort of like the festivities happening in that
Yeah.
city and it's zooming out and all of those colors, it's just wow.
And all of the NPCs that were on screen, I'm like, you couldn't do that on a Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
There'd be some flickering sprites on screen for sure.
This is why it's a great time to be alive. Like you get all the best stuff, being developed by people who grew up with those and are like very intimate with what make those things great. Plus the modern technology to really polish all the things that they couldn't really do before, but you can do it now.
Mhm.
It's a great time.
Like all those
for
particle
these.
effects and
Yeah.
in Seed of Nostalgia, for instance. Yeah. Go wish
Go
this stood
ahead
on
and
Steam.
do that. We're gonna be doing this all night. All right. So moving on, we've got another game that we previously talked a little bit about. But last time we looked at it, there wasn't really any gameplay to show off of, but now we do. The game is called Opus Prism Peak. It is a unique adventure game published by Series of Game that centers around a very middle-aged photojournalist who finds himself stranded in an ethereal mountain realm where he must use the power of photography to discover the secrets and to find his way home.
I remember this one now. It took me a second.
Let's take a look at the trailer real quick.
Okay.
And
Yeah, let's do this using the power of photography.
sometimes I love these games where like the unique power that these protagonists has just happens to be the thing that saves them
Is that
and
that's
not
not
anything else.
that's not Steve
We
Bloom
have looked at
talking,
this
is it?
before.
That voice
But
actor.
we
That's not
looked
Steve
at-
Bloom, is it?
Sorry
Hang on.
I'm sorry?
for dragging
Be
you
quiet.
on this trip.
Trying to listen to the voice acting.
I can't let a kid go
Yeah.
up there alone.
No, it's not. Okay. For a second, it sounded kind of like Steve Bloom for a second. It's not him.
Oh, that's what you're asking.
Fading away.
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't any like gameplay last time. It was just a short, very, very short trailer.
Teaser, yeah.
This time we are getting some gameplay.
The art in this is adorable, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't look like it's going to be a turn-based
If there's
RPG.
a fire,
I don't see any combat, but the gameplay does.
I don't think there's any combat in this one, but
that's all right.
But there's multiple endings to be had here.
Oh, well, that's
Depending on the choices you
practically an
make in the
RPG
game.
right there. There could be a fishing minigame. We don't know.
The
There may be a
atmosphere
fishing
looks
minigame somewhere in
amazing.
there.
Absolutely. It's like,
When you make it back, I hope you grow up strong. Even when your best isn't enough. Try to stay brave.
God, this game is going to make me cry, isn't it?
Yeah, this game is gonna make us cry.
Looks like it.
I can feel the tears coming out already.
I know.
And that was Opus Prison Peak, and it's only on PC via Steam, coming out this fall.
Did you notice that I actually switched back to the appropriate scene this time, completing the character arc?
Did
Yes,
did.
I've grown as a person. All
Okay.
right. Oh, what? I think, did you accidentally mute yourself? Because you got real quiet there, Mr. Baku.
Moving on up, sir.
Oh,
Did I
okay.
disconnect just now? Oh,
Maybe.
Hi.
Oh. Is James still there? Did I get disconnected?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Whew. Ah,
Sorry,
it's
we had a
close.
little bit of a technical issue just now. But
All
I
right.
think we're all back.
All right. Well,
sir.
yeah. Next up, we've got a little announcement here from developer Cold Blood Inc., who just announced a new action RPG with a blend of horror. You did this on purpose. You did this to me. Horror
what are you talking about?
and-
you love horror games.
and life sim called Neverway. This is going to be co-created with pixel artist behind Celeste. Oh, actually, I think I actually already did see the trailer for this. This does look really cool. So, yeah, let's check out this trailer because it's cool. And we
love horror and you love RPG.
I mean,
so
I am a fan of pixels. That is a fact.
you know, it
It kind of
wasn't
gives me
that
Ghost in
long
the
ago.
Shell vibes.
It
Slightly.
wasn't that long ago when we asked about like RPG and horror games, and we're
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, we can't really think of a lot of them.
I mean,
I think
yeah.
they watched the show and they heard you, and they're like, oh, okay.
Oh, look at that!
Oh,
It's a
there's the-
JRPG
there's
fishing
the
minigame.
fishing. Yeah, see?
I saw it.
It's a JRPG.
The art is awesome. Really
Ain't it,
cool
though?
style.
It looks super
It's from
fast
the
paced.
pixel artists that co-created. It's from the pixel artists behind Celeste.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
that explains why these look incredible.
Ah, the character portraits are awesome. The it looks like where there is combat, it looks super fluid and fast paced. Kind of linked to the past-ish, but maybe a little more maybe a little more depth to it. It's hard to tell. It looked like there was dashing and stuff, rolling, dodge rolls. You know what? I'm kind of digging it. As the resident not horror fan, this is doing a pretty poor job of scaring me away.
It looks good. It looks
Yeah.
good.
That one looked awesome.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Well, I mean, I guess I can wait, but we have to wait regardless because, well, right now there's not really a release date. They have announced it though. It's being developed for PC via Steam, and that's it. So keep your ears open and keep your eyes peeled or something. That sounds more like a horror phrase than ever now I think about it.
We hit 2,000 subscribers. Derek will finish that one too.
Oh yeah, that's right. We haven't really been plugging that stretch goal of ours lately, have we?
No, we have not. No, we have not.
Subscribe because
Derek
at
will go
1,000
back
subs, I have to go play more Silent Hill remake.
and finish the game.
Oh,
Let's up
jeez.
the ante.
I don't know.
Finish
Did
the
I
game.
sign off on that? I don't know. But okay, well,
we
you know
gotta-
what? It's fine.
Take
Well,
one for the team, Derek. Take one for the team.
it'll never happen. I'll never play it because no one's ever subscribing to this channel again.
Yeah, ever.
Who would do that? Nobody. That's who.
All right. The final game that we have for you for this evening is from publisher Aniplex and developer Blast Edge Games.
Ooh.
They'll be announcing, they've announced the worldwide release of their 2D top-down pixel RPG with this new trailer that we can take a look at.
Aniplex have announced a top-down RPG. What?
Yes, and the game is called HYKE Northern Lights. We've actually talked about this game too before, but again, very little to go off of before. But now we have things.
That's some
Actually, I don't even
adorable pixel art.
Yeah. If this is not a pretty cozy kind of game.
All right, someone's getting murdered. This game's too cutesy. There's gonna be blood. There's gonna be
everywhere.
Yeah, there's absolutely going to be just like massacred, like disembodied people. Yep.
But yeah, so I think this is post-apocalyptic, and you are traveling the world to try to trace your mother's footsteps. And,
Yep.
You know, discovering the meaning of this world.
And at the end, you discover the disemboweled corpse of your mother or something. Like
Yes.
that's how it happens. That's how they always get you.
Derek's version of the game. Like if we let Derek develop a game, that's the ending.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's that emotional sucker punch that I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
a little bit extreme, but yeah. Emotional
The
disemboweling.
Yeah, if it's not extreme, it's not worth doing.
I mean, whenever you show me like really adorable RPGs, Baku, it's usually because they like the point is you like take the wrong turn. Whoop. And oh jeez. Oh dear. Oh jeez. Okay, so whenever you show me like an adorable pixel art RPG, it's usually accompanied by like something really sinister and like disturbing. Like, oh, here's the story about this little girl. She's got a mushroom growing out of her eyeball, and it's like, oh, that's so cute, but she's also like dying. That's really sad and cute.
Oh, that game was so fun.
What game was that again?
I forgot the title of it, but she's like the last living human, and there's like a robot that needs to like try to keep her alive. Yeah, that game.
That's the one. Yeah. Yep. So
fun.
See, Baku like he likes to show me games with these great lovable characters, and like if they like accidentally go left instead of right, they get smashed by a piano that gets dropped off of an Empire State Building. Like it's and then and you hear them like complaining about the pain as they die. It's like that's the stuff that Baku likes. It's I don't get it.
I don't know, man. What can I say? I have certain tendencies. But no, I think this game is just cute. It's a cozy. Okay. I think at least for now, it's cozy. Top-down pixel action RPG. And this game will be coming to PS5, Switch, and PC via Steam this summer. So pretty soon, and maybe just a couple of months. And that kind of wraps it up for us as far as games that we'll be talking about today, anyways. On to industry news, and it's really just one piece.
One Piece?
One Piece.
Yeah, cool. We have some news about One Piece, guys.
No, the one piece of news, not news of One Piece. Sorry, I know. I apologize. Okay. And this piece of news, it's about the Indie Live Expo that I had just talked about. So that happened today, like a couple of hours ago. At this time. And
were you there?
Like a showcase of like 40-ish, maybe more games. I couldn't even count how many there were. Okay. Right. And they're all super polished indie games that I have not had time to really sit through. Like it was like a 3 hours and 30-minute presentation. And it was like maybe like 15 seconds per game.
And you didn't talk about it. You didn't cover them all. You didn't simulate a list of
no.
Baku,
I covered a couple that I thought were interesting, just to get you guys intrigued with some of these indie games. But it kind of goes back to what we were saying before. Like, do you not really get the attention because of the indie label? We have a whole showcase that was like 3.5 hours just on indie games. Wow. There's got to be there's got to be a want for this to be delivered, right?
Oh man!
So it just comes to show you that we do live in a very different time, and it's a good one.
Yeah.
So You can also watch this 3 hours of announcements on YouTube. As a matter of fact, if you just search up Indie Live Expo, we'll have the link later in the description. If you don't want to wait to geek out with us next week. And
We could all watch it
next
right
Sunday,
now if you have 3 hours to kill. Y'all.
Yeah, we can totally, let's just watch 3 hours of this.
Oh,
Yeah.
nope.
No, James, come back.
Audio people are gonna be like, "What is going on?" Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of the games, some of the highlights next week. So you guys already know what we're gonna do next week, along with any new announcements, etc., coming in next week. So please look forward to that. But if you can't wait, again, the link is in the description. You want to check out Indie Live Expo 2025.
All right. Well, now we do have some things to talk about before we wind down. We have we already responded to the super chat that was posted by Still Alive. Thank you again for that, Still Alive. And we have some comments from last week that we can respond to here real quick. So I'll lead off with this one here from Freddie, who says, "I'm not a huge DK fan, but Bananza looks really fun. I may need to pick that one up." Yeah. I'm also kind of not really into DK, mostly because I don't think he's had an RPG yet. That could be a thing in the future. You never know.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, seriously? Like, you could just collect bananas and use them to like level up, get some, put them into a skill tree. Like, that would be pretty sick.
I can see it working. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Get
it
the
hasn't
Mario
happened
RPG
yet.
treatment. Yeah.
Yes. Super Donkey Kong RPG. There you go.
Super Donkey Kong RPG. Yeah. I'd play it.
Crazier things have happened.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, a lot of games that we talk about on this channel are not necessarily games that Derek or myself may pick up, but we look at it and we're like, hey, this looks fun. We're going to talk about it, right? So just know that that's what happens. And just like DK or some other, these Nintendo franchise games, man.
I know. Then we have one from Cynics13 who says, "EC, damn it, Derek." And that's a reference to when I was talking about how in East they do in fact have a less difficult mode, and I honestly I feel like they should name it EC instead of easy mode, but well, they haven't taken my advice on that yet, but maybe at some point they will.
Don't infect James with your puns, sir. I want to see the nostalgia to be great, and not funny. How dare you?
How dare you, sir? I think there are plenty of games that are both, including games like Earthbound. I'm just saying, the best games, the best RPGs have enemy names that are in fact puns. Yeah. All right. Okay. And then we got another one here from XEBUSC, who says, "Unless I missed it, have y'all talked about Look Outside? This game looks fantastic. I can see Derek enjoying it because it's one of the best kind of horror. LOL. You son of a bitch."
I included it just so Derek can read it. Thank you for bringing that up. We had not talked about it, but now we just did, and I'm gonna send him the trailer later, so he'll watch it.
Thank you very much. Let's see. Oh, and it looks like we had quite a bit of discussion about the tariff talk during our last episode. Again, I think that was a really good discussion overall, Baku, being able for me to actually talk to someone who has a degree in economics and being able to bring that expertise to the table.
4 years.
4
all
years.
Amount to this day.
And to think that after that you would go for your doctorate in waifu studies. That's just quite the pivot. Yeah. Quite the pivot.
James, if you ever want a consultant on waifus, just let me know. I'm gonna get a degree in PhD in waifu study. Happy to share my insight on waifus. Just the 2D ones. Like, keep the 3D ones away from me.
Okay.
Yeah, but the tariff talk I guess before we get to the comments, I do appreciate the community for just like listening in for what we may have to say. It is one of those topics that don't necessarily we don't really have a great channel to like discuss, right? Because it's
Mhm.
kind of one off. Like I'm
But
not
it
gonna
does affect us, and it affects
right
everything that's going on with the Switch 2 right now. And God help us if it
games,
ever affects
productions, just all
software.
kinds of things. Like if
Yeah.
you're a physical collector of games, guess what? That affects you because guess where these things are produced.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was
I
just talking to somebody about that. Nintendo removing sort of the middle ground cartridge memory size. So
Mhm.
you're either stuck as a developer, you're stuck using either basically a tiny little one for very small games or the 64 gigabyte. There's no middle ground options anymore. And I know
oh
some of
wow.
the publishers I've been talking to are really just at a loss as to what to plan for Switch 2.
Can
And a
they
lot of
keep
porting
producing Switch
companies
1
are,
games? Maybe just keep
yeah,
producing Switch 1 and
they
then
can. I
yeah.
mean, I think
Derek,
Switch 1 has
remember
one of
what
the
I was saying
biggest.
about the game key cards?
Yeah.
This is it.
Mm,
The game
Yeah.
key card. But the
yeah.
the really small one contains just enough information to authorize the game as the key, and that's it. And
Do
remember,
not
I
like.
said that one of the usage is going to be for like indie developers trying to
Mhm.
publish games.
Well, there is
And
that, but I
yeah,
also
if
don't
they
like that you can't put the whole thing on the. I feel like
oh yeah,
because I said this
absolutely.
before that like the only real legitimate use case for a game key card is if you can't play the game offline anyway,
Mhm.
but a single player experience that does not require any form of online connectivity should be able to be played without connecting to a server. Like,
Yeah,
and so and it is frustrating to me
it is.
that the only legitimate use case for these is kind of being omitted and neglected. Like
Mhm.
there are pro consumer ways to use this, and so far we've only seen it used and not pro consumer ways.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
disappointing.
okay. Anyways,
Um,
go ahead. I don't mean to be negative, but I think you were gonna read the next question here or
no,
comment.
this is just comments on the tariff. This is from McClare Mountain. He said, "Thanks for the chat on tariffs. I feel like a clear picture has been unveiled for me when it comes to this topic. Yeah, glad that you were here to listen to our TED talk over tariffs." And then another one from Shadow King who said, "I think people need to take a breath and wait as far as what the tariffs will bring." Until we actually know something. Let's not be jumping to conclusions. And by the way, this is not like tariffs in general. I think what they were saying
Mhm.
is about because we were discussing about like price increase
Yeah.
specifically
Yep.
on Switch 2 cartridges. So, and then to his point, like I do think we should just relax a little bit and see what actually happens because we don't know like how that was systematically change
This is true. Yep.
game
Yeah.
hard copy game prices in general. We don't have enough evidence to say one way or another.
And
Um,
very recently, there was an update to the situation about, exceptions being made for things like phones, tablets, and computers and chips.
Mhm.
And like, well, what is a game card if not a chip inside of a plastic
oh,
container?
I'm sorry,
You
Derek.
know,
Breaking news. That has already been walked back.
oh,
Hmm.
I know. It was this morning. Yeah,
okay.
that
Oh,
has
wow.
been reversed already. So it's like playing Uno. You're like reverse, and then they're like reverse, reverse. So yeah, sorry, you're gonna have to reverse the
Okay.
exemption.
Never
Sorry,
mind.
I don't make the rules. I'm not there. I didn't do
Wow.
this. Don't shoot the messenger.
No.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you for stopping me from spreading misinformation. Thank you.
reverse.
Hey
I mean,
guys,
that's
I
true
hate to
today,
say
but
it,
what
but
about tomorrow?
I think I should probably go, otherwise my dog is gonna beat the
Yeah.
hell out of
Oh.
me.
That's all right. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much for
we're
joining us,
wrapping up
man.
the show anyhow.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
great.
this is the end.
All right. Well,
Okay.
take care, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you
Hey,
again,
it was
James.
an absolute blast.
Oh, thank you.
Hey,
All right.
thank you, sir.
And
All right.
All right. And everybody back at home, thank you all so much for joining us today. That is the conclusion of our show as well. So if you enjoyed listening to today's show, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already here on the YouTubes, or if you're listening on various other podcasting platforms of your choice, like, iTunes or Amazon or Audible. I think that's the same thing. But wherever you are, giving it a like or a review is super useful and helps push the show to new people and achieving greater and greater heights, so we can provide an even better platform for people like James today, who also, by the way, go check out that that Kickstarter if you haven't already, and wishlist Seed of Nostalgia here on Steam as well. So
Sorry.
Baku, have you got any last questions or comments that you'd like to close the show out on?
Last comments, man.
Any last wishes? Last words?
Well, I guess I do have one thing.
Yeah.
If you guys like these kind of interviews with developers who ask them some really hard-hitting questions, or just things that you might not have been able to, known otherwise, definitely let us know, like, how you guys are liking these kind of interviews. Or if there are additional developers, probably the indie varieties, that you would like to see on this show, perhaps give us some ideas. I mean, I don't necessarily know like all the different developers and all the different folks. I try to reach out to some that I feel like they would vibe on
Yeah.
the channel. Of course, thank you so much, James, for agreeing to come on to do this interview. In addition to all the other developers who had been on this channel. I did get one question earlier that I had answered, and I do want to maybe vocalize this one
Oh,
from
yeah.
Piven, who had asked whether or not this interview would be available, and this live stream would be available to watch once it's finished. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
answer is yes. As a matter of fact, all of the interviews that we have ever had, including this one, all on the HitPoint channel. So, including
You have to go to a lot of them, you have to go to the live section, which is weird.
you have to
for
go to the
YouTube.
live section. That's
Yep.
right. Yeah. So treat this like it's a VOD for a live stream and not like a video.
Yeah.
Although I don't know. Should we ever split out just the interview part as a video? Do you think that might be a good idea?
I don't know. Well, I'll think about it.
Yeah,
Well, guys,
you guys let us know if that might make sense at all. And maybe we'll think about how to better structure these interviews, or who we might want to invite, et cetera, et cetera.
oh yeah. And next weekend we have another interview lined up with Chintzy, right? Is that next weekend?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it next? I think
it is.
I do believe it's next weekend. Yeah. So next weekend is going to be like a mega show.
Yeah.
I think.
It'd
So
be
prepare,
awesome.
Derek. It's going to be. Yeah, we have a bunch of games to talk about, and we have another interview that we had previously scheduled, but unfortunately we were not able to
Stuff came
go
up.
through. Yeah,
Yeah.
some stuff came out, but we'll do it for next Sunday. So please come back and join us with a interview with Chinzy
From My
as we,
Familiar. Yeah.
yeah, do a deep dive on My Familiar. Yeah,
All right.
that's it.
Take care, everybody. Have a good night.